Hello, fellow cat enthusiasts. My name is Dr. Kara Caldwell, and I've been a practicing cat-only veterinarian for approximately 15 years in the state of Connecticut. Today, I'm wanting to go over with everybody how to choose the correct cat carrier when purchasing a new one, or ways to modify your current one to make getting your cat into the carrier and to the vet a little bit easier for you, as well as easier on your vet staff when they have to come back out. First, we'll go over some of the soft-sided carriers. This purple one is probably the most common model that I see as far as soft-sided carriers coming into the practice. So this has a partial opening in the back, a full opening in the front, and it's basically a fully wrapped around mesh on the side. One of the biggest downsides that we can spot right away with this carrier is it doesn't really keep its shape very well. While it's beneficial from a human standpoint as far as storage goes, if something were to fall on this carrier with your cat in it, there's no protection. If you were to get in a car accident with your cat in it, again, no protection. The other big downside with these soft carriers is that if your cat does get car sick or motion sick, gets really upset in the carrier and they pee or they poop in the carrier, it's very, very hard to clean. So even though you can take out this bottom piece, all these sides make it very, very hard for this to stay clean and dry for the ride home after it's been soiled. Most carriers are also not designed to go in the washing machine, and even if they are, you still have to get your cat back home, so you would have to put them in a partially soiled carrier. So generally, a soft-sided carrier is not something that I recommend in general. However, if you're going to have a soft-sided carrier because you feel that the benefits of having the softer experience for your cat is just more beneficial, and you think it's something that's better for your aesthetic, and you do, for whatever reason, need to store it, like let's say you're traveling and you need to store it in a hotel room or something like that, and you just don't have the space for the plastic carriers that we were showing at the beginning of the video, this might be your best alternative. This is a Sleepy Pod Air. This model is designed to be able to be brought on airlines, and it has a few travel-specific features that are really beneficial. So one is that while it is still soft-sided, it's relatively rigid. It does have some structure on the inside, so even if something does fall on it, it doesn't crush. It's still not going to provide as much protection compared to the plastic carriers in a car accident. However, it provides some. So if you needed a soft-sided carrier, look for one with structure like this one. The other benefit to this particular carrier is it has ways for you to attach it to a car seat by opening both these zippers. You can see I can put my hand all the way through it. It also is a way for you to put it onto your luggage, your rolling luggage, to keep it secure at the airport. Another feature to this particular one that I like, as the vet goes, and also for you, is that these zippers make it so that this top portion can come all the way off. So it makes it so that this opens pretty wide. So I can get in there to get your cat back out. You can put your cat back in, and it makes it a little bit easier as far as that goes. This one's slightly easier to clean compared to the purple carrier because it does have mostly vinyl here on the inside. I don't know if you can hear that while I'm scratching it. So it makes it a little easier to wipe down, a little bit more liquid repellent as far as pee goes or vomit. The downside to this one, though, is it still does have the felt bottom here. And I did try to clean this before making the video, and you can see there's still a significant amount of hair and nail sheaths stuck in the bottom. The reason why there's nail sheaths in here is some cats, when they get upset, they'll try to grab onto the side of the carrier or the bottom, and that makes it really hard to get them out of a soft-sided carrier. So particularly if your cat is aggressive at the vet, or they need to be pulled out of the carrier and they don't come out willingly on a regular basis, I would strongly recommend a plastic carrier as opposed to a soft-sided carrier for that reason. Another feature that this carrier has that's great for travel is it has a little leash, so that if your cat has to go through TSA, for example, you can have a harness on your cat and you can connect it to this leash, and it keeps them to a stationary object, which is great because an airport's a very scary thing. So just in case, somebody moves the zipper moves accidentally, there's still something holding them into the carrier. So that's a benefit that is great for that situation. If you are going through TSA though, and they are requesting for you to take your cat out of the carrier for inspection, I do recommend requesting a room that you guys can go into and allow for the inspection to happen, where if your cat does get out, it's confined to a room as opposed to the entire airport. This model does fold up, but again, I do recommend keeping their carriers intact and create a safe space for your cats within them. And I'll show you more with the more traditional hard plastic carriers. These are 3 models of hard plastic carriers that I've been seeing a lot more in my practice recently, and that's great. I'm starting to see a lot more of these top opening carriers, which is great for you to try to get them into the vet, but also me as the vet to try to get your cat back out of the carrier if they're really nervous and they want to stay in once they're there. We're going to go over this model first, some of the older models. There are ways to modify this to make it a little bit more pet friendly, but generally I would recommend going with a top opening model if you can. Downsides to this particular model is there is no top opening. So when you're trying to get your cat in the carrier, your only option is the front here. And the front, only opens one way, and then this little nubbin here gets in the way sometimes if it's open fully. The other issue is, you don't have a top loading option. So if you do have to lower your cat into this carrier, your only option is to stand it up on its end, open this top, and then try to lower your cat in. And it's a much smaller opening, so that does make that very, very difficult. I will show you in my other video how to modify this carrier potentially to get your cat in it in a top loading fashion. It requires a little bit of MacGyvering. However, once you've done that, I would recommend removing the screws and not using the screws at all. So for example, if your cat is very aggressive and I can't get them out of the carrier, rather than causing more stress by trying to pull them out the front, my vet staff will usually take away these screws and try to lift the top completely off. But spending all that time trying to unscrew these 8 to 10 screws, depending on your carrier, it just takes way too much time. So one hack that you can do is get a bunch of zip ties. These zip ties are very cheap. They're at the hardware store. Bring them with you to the vet in case your vet doesn't have any. But you can replace these screws with zip ties, and they generally are very, very, very secure. So once they're attached, you tie them tight, and you can, once you're at the vet, if they need to take the top off, then all they need to do is take a simple pair of scissors and cut them away, as opposed to taking the time to unscrew the entire thing. That can be very important if your cat is in respiratory distress. It allows us to minimize the stress of handling your cat. But also if your cat is aggressive, it's just a little bit more safe for everybody to be able to lift them out of the carrier if we need to. So that's my advice for if you have an older carrier and you don't have the funds to invest in one of these newer ones. Replace these screws with zip ties. Just make sure you give a quick tug after you do so to make sure they're nice and tight. So these carriers, this one is Frisco by Chewy. This one is an Amazon Basics carrier. We'll go over both. So you can see here, I was already playing around with zip ties. This Frisco by Chewy one and the Amazon Basics one, I like for a few reasons. One, they're top loading. The other option that they have here is rather than screws to keep things tightened in, they have these latches. And these latches, they're not perfect. They can be undone. And that's why they have the screws that come with them. But rather than using the screws, I recommend these zip ties. But they are relatively quiet and they're quick to use. So if you have that situation with the aggressive cat or your cat's in respiratory distress, we can take this entire top of the carrier off if needed. The reason why we might still need to do that, despite the top loading here, is you can see this opening is still pretty small. So if your cat's pretty aggressive and we need to do something like use a towel to try to get your cat out, or those big heavy gloves, and I'm trying to do that, my hands in the towel are already taking up a lot of that open space. So it makes it a lot easier on the vet staff and easier on your cat to be able to open the entire top off. This particular model, I can struggle and try to get this entire top off, but regardless, this opening is still pretty small because of this plastic area here. And the other thing about this model is the plastic is still pretty, as you can see, flimsy. So because of that, things like the door falling open can happen. And if you are in a car accident, it's not quite as safe as something that's a little bit more rigid. So I would recommend, if you can, I know everything's bought online nowadays, but actually pushing on the carrier when you're going to buy it with assembled and see if things like that happened. And I will say that when I was trying to assemble this, it was delivered to me because it's chewy. When I was trying to assemble this, I did have a lot of difficulty getting things to line up correctly. So generally, I wouldn't recommend this particular model. The Amazon Basics one, however, was much easier to put together. It's very similar to this chewy model. It has the clips on the side here. And I'll just do a demonstration quickly of the zip ties. So you put them through where the screws would have gone. Apply the zip tie. And you can see that's really tight. That's not going anywhere. And in an emergency, I can take a pair of scissors, squeak them under there, and cut it. And that comes off way faster than unscrewing the 10 screws. The other thing that I like about this is the top loading feature. It can be used like a traditional top loader where only one side is undone. But it also lets you undo both sides, so this top can come completely off. So if you do not want to take the entire carrier apart, you have this option. This could be beneficial to you when you're trying to put your cat back into the carrier, when you're trying to get them to the vet in the first place. You can get them in the carrier, keep your hand or towel there, depending on what you're using, put both sides in, and there you go. You don't have to worry about the top flapping around while you're trying to do stuff, it closing on you while you're trying to get the cat back into the carrier. It happens. So that's why I like this model in particular. A lot of people prefer the soft-sided carriers because they feel that these are harsh. They're not soft. But why I like the hard-sided carriers is they're easy to clean. If your cat does vomit or urinate in the carrier, your staff, the staff at the vet, can take out the towel that was in there, replace it with a new one, and after they clean out the plastic, and you're good to go with basically a brand new carrier. The downside to the soft ones, again, is if they do urinate in it, it's hard to get rid of that urine at the vet office without a thorough cleaning and drying. And so your poor cat has ended up going home in a partially soaked carrier. Nobody likes that. Generally, things that I would recommend to try to modify the plastic-sided carriers to be a little bit better for your cat is to put like a blanket or towel in there that smells like them, smells like home. You also want to cover, whether it's soft-sided or not, the carrier for traveling to the vet with a towel. The reason why you want to cover the carrier with a towel is most cats are nervous and scared outside of the house. So limiting their input from the outside world really helps with the anxiety for most cats. So that's something that I would recommend. And if you can use a towel that's familiar to them and has familiar scents, that's the best option. I also would recommend bringing yet another towel to the vet in case those messes do happen. So instead of the vet having to put in like a pee pad or a puppy pad or something that doesn't smell like them, you have another blanket that smells like them to go home. And that'll just help their anxiety on the way home as well. We'll go over things more during my other video where I talk about how to get your cat into the carrier, but quickly I'll go over Feline-only. So Feline-only doesn't always work for every cat, but it's definitely something that may be helpful, so I do still recommend doing. You can get this Feline-only spray pretty much everywhere, but get the spray version, and you want to spray the towels and the carrier 20 minutes before you're going to try to get them in there. If you do it 30 seconds before, it's really not going to do much for your cat. It's going to still have some of the things that they mix with the pheromones to that help calm the cat and help with anxiety. Some of that odor is still going to be there and it's not going to have time to dissipate into the air. So that's why you need to use it about 20 minutes before you actually need it. So I would recommend still doing that. The other thing that I do not generally recommend are those new viral backpack carriers that can come in. I've seen them. Some of the cats look pretty cramped in there. They're kind of forced to sit in the carrier, and that's not very comfortable, especially when you're already in an anxious situation. And then they have those submarine type glass viewing orbs, which kind of defeats the purpose for most cats. They can't really hide in them, and most cats really do prefer to hide when they're in a weird or scary situation. The other thing that I would generally recommend is keeping a couple of clean pillowcases or a cardboard carrier per cat in your car's trunk. The reason for that is, heaven forbid that your house or apartment has a fire or a flood and you can't get to your carrier. Then you have a way to get your cat safely out into your car and not just loose in the car. You have a way to get your cat contained that would work in an emergency, and those are easily compact. So, and you can keep them pretty much anywhere. So that is something that I would recommend. And that might be the one time that the soft carrier might be beneficial, is in an emergency where they are compacted. And so if you have an old soft carrier, rather than throwing it out, maybe you just throw it in your car's trunk and use it only in the cases of emergency. And also having maybe a few towels that smells like your cat just around, maybe near the door or something that you can grab. It will benefit you, especially if your cat is very scared while alarms are going off. One question that I sometimes get asked, or I sometimes do see this situation happen in the hospital, is 2 cats in 1 carrier. Unfortunately, this is not that internet meme. You do not want 2 cats in 1 container. The reason being is, if they do get very upset at the vet, they can definitely take that out on each other when they're getting ready to go home, and then you're left with no way to get your other cat home. So I do recommend having 1 carrier per cat, even if they're the happiest cats together at home. When they're out of the house, most cats recognize each other through smell. They start to smell like the vet, they smell like the new place, and they may not recognize each other right away. And in heightened states of anxiety, things can go poorly. So I do recommend having 1 carrier per cat. One of the quick ways to help get your cat into the carrier is to leave your carrier out and open all the time. So what you would want to do, if you have a carrier like this one, you want to leave this top on, but maybe have the door off. And one of the reasons for that is, if this door gets walked into or something and it slams, that's going to be scary for your cat and cause more anxiety. So what you want to do is have this carrier out in your house. It doesn't have to be in the middle of the room. You can have it under an end table. You can have it under your dining room table, under a coffee table, with a blanket in it, something comfortable for your cat, and just out and about. It's going to help when you do have to get your cat into the carrier, so that it already smells like them, it smells like your house, and you can develop habits to get them into that carrier. For example, if you give them a high value treat in the carrier, maybe a little bit of tuna fish every once in a while, or just their favorite bonito flakes, throw it in the carrier, let them go in and out as they please. When you finally do have to get them to the vet, you throw those flakes in the carrier, you put the door on, they're not going to be quite as upset. So that would be my main recommendation, any carrier that you use, is to have it out and about in the house so that it smells like them. So in conclusion, you don't need to spend a lot of money to have a quality cat carrier. Like I said, one of my favorite ones here is from Amazon Basics. And of the 3 that I had on the table, this is my favorite one. It was relatively inexpensive. I would say, as long as it checks off the boxes for what you need, then it's great. So again, you want something durable, you want something cleanable, you want something that has easy access for both you and the vet staff. That's very important. So something that is front opening and top opening would be best. I have seen a few carriers, I haven't been able to notice the brand though, that have these little spring-loaded clips on both sides, so even the door can come completely off. That would be great, and that would benefit you trying to get your cat in the carrier. So if you can find a carrier that's very similar to this one, where the door can come completely off, that would probably be my perfect carrier. If you have a carrier that you really like, or you know of that carrier that has the 2 springs and this, let me know. Please comment below, and if there's anything else you would like me to go over or review, I'd be more than happy to. My goal for this video series is to not only help you do things the best way from a veterinary standpoint, but also from a pet owner standpoint and a practical standpoint.